My F30s, boyfriend M30s, both never wanted kids, but after an unexpected death my BF is taking in his kid nephews 7,6. Edit, thank you all so much for the replies. I will try to get to each one. One thing I see a lot of people comment on is about the notion that he did this without consulting me or getting my input. I just want to say that I don't feel like that. I would never tell him to choose or anything like. 200% agree with his decision. There was never a point in time where taking the boys in was questioned. It was going to happen and I'm fully okay with that part of it. Thank you all again. Too long didn't read. BF and I for years have said we never wanted kids. After a death he is going to take in his nephews. Not sure what to do. I'll try to keep this short. My BF and I have been together for 5 years and we're in a very strong and healthy loving relationship. After about 1.5 years we had the future talk. I didn't beat around the bush and told him I never wanted kids. Motherhood is just not something I am interested, even though I absolutely love kids. I wasn't expecting, but my BF said the exact same thing about fatherhood and I feel like that made us even closer. About my BF, he is the absolutely sweetest and kindest person you could meet. He is a rock to everyone and will always help those out in need. He would give you the shirt off his back if you needed it. I've seen him do it. He comes from a small family with just a sister who has 2 young boys. After an unexpected death my BF immediately stepped up and said he would take them in as their father isn't around and there is no other family. We are both professionals and have very successful careers and are very comfortable, so in theory it's not an issue at all, but I just don't know how to feel as we had our plan and it sadly has been flipped upside down. Again, we had agreed we didn't want to be parents and we planned our future around it. I feel guilty that I am even saying this, but I just don't know what to do. Any advice is welcome, thank you. This is kind of a special case because it's not like he deliberately changed or went against your boundaries and planned future despite how he knows you feel about it. This is a completely different situation. He clearly does value family. This might be a different value than what you have. A difference in values is a valid reason to break up. I think he was respectful in making this decision at least. One option you could consider is moving out and continuing your relationship. I have come across relationships like that seem to function well. That way you have space away from the kids but you can visit at any time and he can get babysitters when he wants to stay at your place. Since money doesn't sound like an issue, maybe you could find somewhere close by him. A couple I know have spent time together on weekends but also do shopping and drop stuff off for each other. Boyfriend will also stop by her home whenever it snows and shovel for her and mow her lawn in the summers. I think it's admirable and shows great character that he didn't want kids yet isn't hesitating to take in his orphaned nephews. Now you have to decide what it is you want. Do you love this man enough that you want to build a life with him and these 2 boys? Or would you prefer to be single and have the opportunity to meet someone else who wishes to be child-free? Do you love him more than your desire not to have children in your household? Is what it boils down to, and only you can decide that. Decide if it's worth losing him over. He is physically and financially able to keep his nephews out of foster care and with family after losing their mother. That can change an outlook quickly. I doubt he wants/will want more children, but he doesn't want his nephews to feel unloved and unwanted, much less bounced around when their world has just been shattered. You need to make a decision. Either you change your future plans to pander to the situation or you leave the relationship knowing you don't want to be part of the new family situation. I'd say more accommodate than pander. Her partner didn't change his mind. He is doing the only thing he can reasonably do. My 32M wife, 32F, recently decided she wants kids after finding out she has a medical issue. I wanted kids originally, but I'm hesitant now. Background: married for nearly 2 years, been together for 7. Wife is a therapist who has lived in PA all her life. I'm a surgical resident, originally from California, hoping to go back soon after I finish residency. When my wife and I started dating, my wife was very vocal about the fact that she didn't want children. She didn't like the idea of what the process of pregnancy would do to her body, and was generally scared of the whole process. I wanted children, but I understood her concerns and did not feel it to be a deal breaker at the time, as I was flexible about my desire for children. We were 26 at the time. Suffice to say, at this time, I had kind of put away my desire to have children, as it wasn't something I absolutely needed, and our life wasn't in a position to explore that anyway. I wasn't going to keep beating my wife over the head with conversations about reconsidering children. Recently, my wife has been experiencing a lot of abdominal pain, which prompted a workup from her OB. Her family has a history of adenomyosis/endometriosis, and her mother and grandmother both had hysterectomies young. They discovered that she has adenomyosis. After weighing all the options, she was advised that she could undergo further workup for possible surgery, or we could try to have children if she wanted to, and she could pursue hysterectomy afterward. In the meantime, she was placed on birth control and advised to stop the placebo weeks of medication to suppress her cycle completely. This workup was completed a year ago, and her pain had returned, so she went for a visit again. Same conversation. So my wife and I had a sit down about what children would mean, and whether that's something we wanted to re-examine. Her approach to the topic was that she was open to children. At the time, I didn't feel that was sufficient, and I told her that I didn't want children with someone who was simply open to them and didn't want them. As much as I wanted children, I needed to know that my partner's desire for them matched mine. We tabled the conversation again at this point to allow her to think on it. This was about 6 weeks ago at this point. A lot has happened since then, including the death of 2 of her close family members, one just this last week. This morning, my wife woke me up and informed me that she had thought about it, and she was interested in trying for children. Knowing that my wife has been emotionally troubled since the death of her grandmother this week, I didn't know how to approach the conversation sensitively to let her know that we didn't need to talk about this while she was grieving, but also that I needed some time to think about it since this was a big change from what she had said previously. She responded to this by telling me that she felt that I was rejecting her, and immediately started questioning if there was some other reason why I wasn't excited for what she was telling me. Admittedly, as much as I want children, it's not a deal breaker for me to not have them. The things that scare me about this situation are that my wife has been pretty depressed since COVID began. She sees clients exclusively from home and feels isolated, and is amplified even more so with the death of her family members. I've found myself admittedly wondering how she would cope with the responsibility of a child during the times when I'm at the hospital, and can't help relieve the stress of childcare from her. My wife has had moments where she gets extremely frustrated and freezes due to her emotional stress, instead of thinking of alternate solutions and being upset later. This is odd to me, because I make my living specifically off of not freezing, and figuring out a solution and being upset later. Also, I've lived in PA for nearly 10 years at this point and plan to pursue a fellowship, and eventually someday move back closer to home in California. My wife has expressed extreme concerns about leaving her family behind/being so far away, enough to the point that it concerns me that if I were to match or take a job somewhere she didn't like, I'd honestly have to think about her emotional well-being, or she would leave me altogether. These conversations have become downright heated at times. Adding a child into this seems exceptionally more difficult, and like something I need to figure out after I'm comfortable with where we end up relocating to. So I'm here, sitting, thinking about my whole relationship now, because, as much as I want children, I don't know what it means for us, whether she truly wants them, or if this is because the possibility that she may need a hysterectomy exists. Also, I'm very hesitant to discuss this when the death of her grandmother is very fresh in our minds. They were extremely close. Too long didn't read. Wife may need to have a hysterectomy due to adenomyosis. Previously did not want children before this news. Now open to children but won't say she wants them. Other emotional stressors, death of close relatives, are in play right now, and I don't feel like making this decision right now is the right move. Wife brought it up this morning and I told her I needed time to think about it, but also that we needed time for the immediate sting of this family death to be behind us first. She felt rejected, but we did not close the door on the conversation. I'm concerned about several things, and don't know if this is how I envisioned myself reopening the door to the conversation about children. Admittedly don't know if this is how I want to move forward. Dude, Your marriage was already in trouble when she said she didn't want to move to CA and you just ignored her. It took another hit when you started thinking less of her for the way she's handled the shit show that is COVID isolation. Never mind kids, fix your marriage or decide to end it. Start seeing a counselor, hint, not one of your wife's friends. Try to work out why you think so little of your spouse. You just assumed she'd go with you to California when you got an offer. To work out why you think so little of her now that you doubt she could handle having a child. It could be you are concerned about several things because you don't really want to be married to a person you don't respect. I think that you should be prepared for the fact that if you have children, your wife will insist on raising them in Pennsylvania. Have you talked with her about what would happen if she were to become pregnant and then you were to receive a fellowship in California? My family has been very supportive and absolutely made themselves available to her for anything she has needed, whether when we have traveled home for a trip, or there is something we've been going through at home and they're across the country. Ask her about her feelings related to California all the time. I rarely get past the fact that she doesn't want to leave her family, and that she has never been in California for an extended period of time and doesn't know if she would like it. From your wife's perspective, it probably seemed like you wanted children all along, and now that she also wants children you've suddenly flip-flopped. That's why it feels like rejection to her. But to your points, I think it's wise to have some talks about all the things that are causing you concern. I think for at least the initial conversation you should tell her how much you love her and want to figure this out together. If it's an actual possibility, you want to figure out how it would work out in reality, and since it's a high stress time right now you're having trouble doing that. Wife is a therapist who has lived in PA all her life. I'm a surgical resident, originally from California, hoping to go back soon after I finish residency. It's absurd you two ever married. You knew from the start you had an unsolvable two-body problem. My boyfriend has started having issues with my hair. TLDR, I have graying hair. My boyfriend's mum made a kind of creepy comment which has made us both uncomfortable. Not sure what to do. Me and my boyfriend are both in our mid-20s, however I have noticeably salt and pepper hair. I've been getting gray hair since I was around 15, but since I was 18 or so it's been getting more noticeable to the point my hair is now decidedly salt and pepper. I have naturally dark red-brown hair, so it's definitely very noticeable, but I've never had an issue with it and have never dyed it. My boyfriend has never had a problem with it either and even said he likes it. However, on Christmas Day we saw his family, socially distanced, just us and them, had a bonfire, during which his mother got progressively more drunk. She started fixating on my hair, saying I should dye it. It makes me look old, and making jokes about how I looked more like his mum than she did. My boyfriend had been defending me until this last remark, when he went very quiet. Since then he's mentioned me dyeing it a few times, and I've explained how that wouldn't be good for me. I have eczema on my scalp, and I don't want to. I finally confronted him about it and he told me his mum had creeped him out with that remark and he was worried about it. I'm honestly not sure what to do from here and was wondering if I could get some advice. You need to have a very serious conversation now. You need to find out where he stands on you being you. Just because his mom doesn't like something about you doesn't mean it's something he needs to be on board with. Assuming your relationship goes through to marriage, he needs to be able to brush off his mom's comments and leave it at that.